clairvoyance of being press is limited, and so we rely on press releases. Before we go on to talk about the releases that came out this week, there's a couple of bits of follow-up news. The first is kind of a completion of a story, and that's about Pokemon Go. Over the weekend was the release of the legendary raids, basically. It's legendary Pokemon are now starting to be released for the game. So now 2 of the legendary creatures are now released in the game, that being Lugia, the one I couldn't remember, and Articuno. But, as they say in this release, additionally the legendary Pokemon Zapdos and Moltres will soar into Pokemon Go soon. So this is just the beginning of the legendary raids, with the next 2 legendaries that are probably going to come in a future update that's probably going to be around Christmas or something along those lines, is going to be Zapdos and Moltres. And also, as kind of a follow-up, Focus Home Entertainment is now having a sale of all of its games via Xbox. Until the 31st, that being next Monday, all of the Focus Home games are going to be 75% off in the Xbox store. They have quite a few games that you may like or that you may enjoy. As they say, it's over 60 games and various DLCs. They are the publisher of The Surge, the Styx franchise, the Tour de France games, the Farming Simulator franchise, and Seasons After Fall. If you haven't played Season After Fall, I reviewed that last year, and it was very good. And so that's one. That is the one I suggest you buy, Seasons After Fall. That is a very good one. And so, into the actual news of the week, and we're going to first start off with GDC, specifically the GDC 2018 Independent Games Festival. It is a section of GDC for independent developers and publishers, and sort of that, or at least that side of the industry. And as they say in the release, the company behind the festival is now accepting submissions for the 20th Annual Independent Games Festival, which takes place in San Francisco over March 19th to 23rd next year. And submissions for the event will go all the way up until October 2nd. But there is slightly more to this than just being invited or getting to the show floor itself. The games that are showed off through the festival are, well, they are for prize money as well. There is a competitive edge to this. There's audience awards, essentially event awards, but also student awards as well. So student developers, new developers, sort of fresh out of sort of university courses and things like that, have the chance to win $3,000. If you're interested in submitting for the event, they have they've put out a timeline, a schedule for you. From July 24th, that being yesterday, the submission process is now open, and that continues on till October 2nd. And then around in early January, the finalists will be announced, and then March 19th to 23rd will be the conference itself through GDC. So if you are an independent developer and are able to get to San Francisco, then this is going to be an event for you. There's a possibility from getting some cash money. And continuing on with various industry stuff, we have a release that came from the ESIC around, it's the Esports Integrity Coalition. It is specifically about their survey. The ESIC has been conducting a survey of the esports industry, that being the pro players, plus the companies, plus people who watch and enjoy esports. And this is sort of their preliminary findings, as it were. As they say in the statement, following the conclusion of the survey, I, that be Ian Smith, the commissioner for the coalition, am very thankful to the community for their enthusiastic participation, particularly the CSGO community, that's the area of esports they were specifically polling, who responded in their thousands. They also go on to reference one of the ESI stories that I covered earlier in the year, which is a position paper that they released in April, which was a statement that specifically covered the way punishments are handed out and the way that they have to be fair and even, and sort of kind of laying out some of their positions around mainly match fixing and cheating. And on to the actual results of the survey itself. They're going to say, it is ESIC's intention to allow academic study of the detailed results of the survey and welcomes approaches from reputable institutions for access to the full results. In the meantime, however, ESIC would like to make the following observations based on its preliminary review of the results. The first point is pretty much the obvious one. They're very thankful to the CSGO community for enthusiastically going for the survey. Surveys covering these sorts of topics have to be very wide-ranging and capture a very large proportion of the audience, because, the repercussions of surveys like this can be quite stark. The second, as they start, it is clear from the hundreds of free IBP, free swag, free Brax comments that a very significant number of people feel that the lifetime bans handed out to the IBP and the other historic match fixing cases were too harsh. This being reference to various lifetime bans of CSGO that were handed out to esports players who were essentially tried and convicted, that being in the sense of they were tried under the ESIC regulations, that being under the suspicions and the regulations of the time of match fixing. And it seems from the survey results that people thought that a lifetime ban for it was too harsh. Although the point does go on to say many more are critical of the publisher's decision in these cases, that being Steam and Steam/Valve. And the third point basically continues on from that thought. ESIC is concerned that the community does not regard match fixing as serious an offence as cheating to win. ESI believes that match fixing is as serious as cheating to win, and is consequently committed to engaging to the community to try and persuade them that their current perception ought perhaps to change. And I think I'm kind of with the ESIC on this one. Cheating to win and match fixing to me are kind of the same thing. It's taking a dive, because to me, taking a dive in an event is the same as kind of cheating. It's rigging an event for a particular outcome. That both of them are rigging for a particular outcome, and to me, it's very much leaning towards being the same thing, and so should be treated equally. And they do go on to say, we will do our best to inform the community about the very real and serious threat to esports posed by betting fraud and match manipulation. It is ESIC's position that match-fixing offences should attract at least the same level of punishment as cheating offences based on experiences of traditional sports. And this is where the whole comparison of esports to traditional sports, football, soccer, NFL, MLB, there's been lots of scandals in the traditional sports areas around sort of taking dives and abuses like that, and they are treated the same as cheating. It's a lot of the time, and yeah, like I said, I stand with the ESIC on this one, that they are two offences that go for the same thing. It's rigging for a particular outcome. And the fourth point goes on even further, saying, having reviewed the publicly available facts surrounding the IBP and other bans, ESIC recommends that the banned players are unbanned and allowed to continue their competitive CSGO careers from the 1st of August 2017, with their reasons for such an action being that the players are culpable, but the regulations at the time were not necessarily clear, and therefore the punishments for an offence of that nature was not necessarily clear, with them saying players and the procedures used to sanction them were not transparent and did not comply with the principles of natural justice. So basically the way and the reasons and the trial for the event, for the offences at the time, were not necessarily crystal clear, and especially legal things, especially around sort of bans like this, have to be absolutely transparent and clear. And well, if the coalition itself decides that the regulations themselves were not clear enough, then that's what stands. Their fifth point is basically asking international organisations, the various esports organisations and companies, to adopt their ESIC anti-corruption code against online betting and betting fraud, with them saying this will address the community's obvious concerns about the clarity of rules and the way that the decisions on these issues have historically been taken. It's basically saying that sort of anti-corruption regulations throughout the esports area are not necessarily equatable in some ways. So the ESIC is basically saying, take ours, everyone use ours, then that way there is a standard. Because at the moment there is no purely defined standard. It's some companies use their own rules, some use the ESIC rules. So it's basically them saying, everyone use ours, everyone agrees on ours, so everyone use ours, and then that way there is a standard. And the sixth point is kind of a continuation to the fifth one, is basically them saying, these are the points of our standard. These are where we stand and where our standard stands. That being what offences gain what punishments. So for a first offence, they say cheating gets a disqualification from the tournament and the voiding of any results from the event, the forfeiture of any prize money, and a ban somewhere between 2 years and a lifetime ban depending on the size of the event. For max fixing and betting fraud, the results are voided, a flexible 5-year ban depending on circumstances, the forfeiture of all the prize money, and a monetary fine. For doping, they say the results are voided and a ban between 1 to 2 years, as well as the forfeiture of all prize money earned. And for competition manipulation and bribery, basically corruption, the results are voided, a ban between 1 and 2 years, the forfeiture of prize money, and a possible fine. And that's all for a first offence, because, as they go on to say in their 7th point, for a second offence, or any for multiple offences, then they are going to be more strict, and so there's going to be increasing the possibility of having a lifetime ban, stricter chances of having a monetary fine, or any sort of monetary loss or loss to competition rights. It has been very interesting seeing ESIC over the year, because they've been basically taking a very firm stance on esports regulations. But from the outside, this has been kind of a very interesting development, seeing how sort of the position and the community has evolved over the past year. And even for me, I'm very fascinated to see where this goes. This is, well, it's been very interesting seeing how far this goes so far. With that ESIC story running a bit long, I'm just going to cut the news portion there. Perhaps we'll cover. It was an industry story. It was the next story I was going to run on to, but it's been recording for quite a long while, and so it's. I'm going to end it there. Possibly going to talk about it on Friday, but I am not done quite yet, because as it is the beginning of the week, it is time to talk about the UK thing, the reschedule. Starting off with the UK All Formats Gaming Chart, again graciously provided by UKIE Limited. And the top 3 for this week can basically be described as: the reviews came in good, yes, the game's fine, and you can't kill the GTA 5. Apart from that, there's not much change. Doom decided to come into the charts this time as number 12. It's always very strange seeing what games come in and out of the chart every now and then. With last week's former number 1, the Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age, to go to number 7. It didn't stay there for long, did it? Straight down to number 7. Although the biggest drop can be equated to the one that's now number 20, Forza Horizon 3, formerly number 6. It's, the charts change quite a lot, drastically. The top 5 usually doesn't, but everything else seems to. And to end, here are the games that are going to be released this week. We have Avon Colony for PC, PS4 and Xbox One, Constructor for PC, PS4 and Xbox One, Fallen Legion for PS4 and PS Vita, Namco Museum for the Nintendo Switch, Citadel Forged with Fire for PC, Dr. Kvorak's Obliteration Game for Mac and PC, Unbox Newbie's Adventure for PS4 and Xbox One, Real Politics for Android, Rome Total War Alexander for iOS, The Dark Side Detective for Linux Online, Mac and PC, Grey's Counter for PC, Hey Pikmin for 3DS, Miitopia for 3DS, Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun for PS4 and Xbox One, Sundered for Linux, Mac and PC and PS4 all online, and Upside Down Dimensions for PC. And that is it for today. If you found this video informative, please do consider subscribing and sharing the video around. It always helps. And, well, that is it for this week. I will see you on Friday for the next Press Rush.